drink at the pilgrim well. Cracked stone, cold moss, iron smell, bitter on my tongue like buried years. Eyes filled up with other men's fears. The water whispered in a broken rhyme of broken crowns and rusted time. It carved its omen in my teeth, turned my breath to winter's wreath. I drank from water touched by wormwood, bitter on my tongue, bitter in my blood. It showed me how the world will end, how every bell is rung, how every beam is cut. The stars went black, the rivers burned, ash for bread and poison wine to bring. And I was left to sing. I saw a child with a quiet face, mark of cinder in a holy place. Priest in gold with hollow eyes, reading empty pages to the skies. Kings at war over salted ground, steel on flesh, that hollow sound. Red horizon, horses thin, candles drowning in their skin. I drank from water touched by wormwood, bitter on my tongue, bitter in my blood. It showed me how the world will end, how every bell is rung, how every roof is cut. The stars went black, the rivers burned, smoke for breath and scorched stone for a ring. And I was left to sing. Silence heavy as lead, no prayer, no promise, only the dead. The sky split open, empty as bone, every voice swallowed into one moan. I begged that well to take it back, but the taste stayed dark, the trail stayed black. Now every cup I ever raise echoes that night, that burning gaze. Drank from water touched by wormwood, bitter on my tongue, carved into my blood. It showed me how the world will end, how every bell is rung, how every tower is cut. The stars went black, the rivers burned, stone and song, the last of any king. And I was left to sing. Only left to sing. To sing. Found a mask in cinders, half buried in the bone-white dust. Its smile was split and crooked, like a priest that you should never trust. I pressed it to my fearful skin, thought it was a trinket, just a thing. But the ash ran hot as iron, and it crowned me like a waiting king. I wore a mask I found in ash. It melted to my face. It showed me things behind the world, a cold and endless place. Now I see what hides in men, the rots beneath the grace. I walk among their shining halls and stare through every face. The market laughed around me, bright banners, bread and spiced red wine. Children chasing copper coins, old songs braided with the churchyard chimes. But every hand that reached for mine was slick with filth that did not show. Eyes like lanterns filled with worms, smiles stuffed with crawling snow. I wore a mask I found in ash. It melted to my face. It showed me things behind the world, a cold and endless place. Now I see what hides in men, the rots beneath the grates. I bow before their golden thrones and watch their halos break. In the chapel, marble saints cracked and turned their heads to me. Every painted martyr's wound opened like a midnight sea. Whispers in a tongue of rust curled around my breathing flame. Keep the gift but pay the cost. You will never see the same. I wore a mask I found in ash. It melted to my face. It showed me things behind the world, a cold and endless place. Now I see what hides in men, the rods beneath the grace. So raise your cups and praise your gods. I'll watch them be blind, but I cannot walk it now. So I'll sing what festers under oaths and curse each secret vow. In every cheer I hear a scream, in every prayer a stain. The mask and I, we share one skull and rule this hidden plane. Stack the branches wet with sleet, pitch on my hand, smoke in my teeth. They dragged her barefoot through the mud, a single foot handprint filled with blood. Her hair was tangled, charms entwined. They called it proof, they called it crime. She did not beg, she did not plead, just to watch the village circle me. I built the pyre for the witch they damned, torch in my fist, ash on my hands. She looked through walls of rising flame and softly spoke my hidden name. She said the curse was never mine. It coils in the watching eyes. It feeds on fear, on thirst for scorch. The curse lives in the ones who watch. Children's chant, their faces painted black with ash. They pressed the brand into my palm, said strike the spark and save our lands. Her gaze cut through the sparks and smoke. She smiled like something ancient woke. My knuckles shook around the flame. She stepped toward me through the chain. Her fingers burned still reached for mine. So cold the crowd leaned in, all teeth and wine. Their hunger heavier than the night, their shadows longer than the pyre. I built the pyre for the witch they damned, torch in my fists, ash on my hands. She looked through walls of rising flame and softly spoke my hidden name. She said the curse was never mine. It coils in the watching eyes. It feeds on fear, on thirst for scorch. The curse lives in the ones who watch. Your field, her murmur swelled. I healed your sick, I rang your bell. You burned the hand that bound your wounds. You crowned the fear that now wears you. A wind tore through the crowded ring. The banners snapped like broken wings. The fire climbed, yet frost took hold along their arms, along their throats. Now every harvest rots in place, and every child is born with scars. They still say I lit that blaze. They still call her falling star. But I remember what she said while embers climbed to kiss her head. The curse was never mine to cast. It waits in every circling mass. It drinks the chant, it drinks the shout. It blooms in those who point me out. It spreads from hand to reaching torch. The curse lives in the ones who watch. A pyre in my own chest, carry her words like iron brand. The flames have faded from the wood, but still they burn in watching hands. In watching hands. I pulled a root from burnt out soil. ripped and split in my bare hand, and then it bled like bone. It whispered names of buried kings, of crowns in rotting clay, of teeth that chewed on prayers and oaths and ground the years away. Root of the Hollow King, thirsting under my skin, whisper your rusted hymns, teach me your ancient sin. I feel you coil within, veins like a crawling ring. I am the hand that sinned, you are the Hollow King. It learned my pulse, it learned my fear by taste. It drank the tremor in my ribs and blessed this mortal waste. It showed me halls of headless gods lit red by boiling sand, their worshippers with sewn-shut eyes still reaching out their hands. Root of the Hollow King, thirsting under my skin, whisper your rusted hymns, teach me your ancient sin. I feel you coil within, veins like a crawling ring. I am the hand that sinned, you are the Hollow King. It said, no prayer can pull you back, no salt can cut this thread. Walk where the soil was never fed. I saw my shadow stand alone, crowned in a broken dawn. I am the womb, the seed, I knew my name was gone. Of the Hollow King, buried behind my eyes, speak through my shattered grin, teach me your famished rites. I feel you bloom within, black flower, broken spring. I am the mouth that sings, you are the Hollow King. Blackened ground, and now the ground pulls me. Step by step the circle draws, I am the bleeding tree. The shore where nothing grows, black sand, dead foam. The wind was full of missing names, cold in my bones. There on the tide a shadow carved from a world undone, a creaking hull of sharpened white that drank the sun. On the ship of bone we go, where the names and faces rot. Captain asks, where do the living go? Says he's long forgot. Says he's long forgot. The crew assault with hollow eyes, their fingers cracked. They turned their heads, the sea ran through each brittle crack. The sails were stitched from weathered skin. Scar upon scar, they swelled inside like dying lungs, reaching too far. On the ship of bone we go, where the names and faces rot. Captain asks, where do the living go? Says he's long forgot. Says he's long forgot. He sat alone on a ribcage throne, hands like rusted lock. His voice was gravel, grave and low. An anchor in the dark. Do they still sing, he whispered then? Do they still bleed and dream? Or did your gods drink all your days like river foam on stream? On the ship of bone we go, where the names and faces rot. Captain asks, where do the living go? Says he's long forgot. Says he's long forgot. Aboard, the shoreline shrank like a dying thought. He smiled, cracked teeth, you'll show the way. And the world was cut. Now the waves are black and wide, and the stars burn hot. On a ship of bone I ask myself, where the living go. I think I've long forgot. I walked a road of cinders, past wells of frozen ink, where crows were perched on mileposts, too tired to even blink. The sky was made of iron, the wind refused to sing, and every step felt older than the birth of any king. Found a garden made of bones, where skulls had bloomed like flowers. A silent monk was tending them through all the sunless hours. His robe was torn and colorless, his eyes like polished stone. He bowed and brushed the grave dust from a fractured, gleaming throne. He beckoned with a candle that never showed a flame. Its smoke wrote dying empires and erased each fallen name. In the garden made of bones, all crowns decayed to rings, all banners rot to whispers, all generals learn to sing. Take this rib, remember every vow is just a string. I tend the roots of empires, and this one used to be a king. He handed me a rib and smiled as if he'd grown a rose. Its curve was carved with languages that only silence knows. I felt my pulse run backward through winters yet to be. Saw castles drown in hourglass sand like ships in a drying sea. The monk traced secret sigils in the marrow, pale and thin. I heard a choir far underfoot begin, and then begin. In the garden made of bones, all crowns decay to rings, all banners rot to whispers, all generals learn to sing. Take this rib, remember every vow is just a string. I tend the roots of empires, and this one used to be a king. Thousand iron gates collapse as if on cue. Saw queens with rusted diadems kneel where the poppies grew. The monk spoke without moving, his voice inside my veins. You came here as a wanderer, you'll leave here as my chain. In the garden made of bones, my shadow split in two. One walked back toward the cinder road, one stayed and knelt anew. He placed the rib inside my chest, I heard the echoes ring. I harvest broken kingdoms, and now you too will be a king. Hedge line, where the cold mist curls and clings, I heard a tiny turning like a fly with iron wings. There upon a stone so smooth, streaked in soot and wax, spun a spindle made of bone, thread of midnight, thin and slack. And she watched it with those hollow eyes, like two wells where stars once sank, hands so still they ached to move, skin like paper, color drained. I found a spindle made of bone, still spinning thread of black. She never blinked, she never breathed, her fingers would not crack. She wove the dark into a cloth and named me out loud, proud. she laid it gentle on my knees and said it was my shroud. And said it was my shroud. Child of iron, child of ash, she murmured through her teeth, I have waited 7 kingdoms for the shape beneath this weave. All your bargains, all your oaths, every spite you ever vowed, every whisper, every wound, I have counted thread by thread and bowed. Then the pattern broke my courage as the figures bled and bled. Every horror I had hidden walked across that wordless web. I found a spindle made of bone, still spinning thread of black. She never smiled, she never shook, her fingers would not crack. She pulled the dark across my chest, it hummed and hissed out loud. She drew it tight around my throat and said it was my shroud. And said it was my shroud. I saw kings on crooked thrones mouthing prayers they never meant. I saw forests full of crosses, roots around the regiment. I saw lovers trading names just to live another hour. I saw my own hands red and ready, feeding some forgotten power. Will you wear it? She demanded. Will you claim what you have sown? Will you walk into that darkness knowing every sin is known? I held the spindle made of bone, still spinning thread of black, took the cloth that knew my name and felt the whole earth crack. I wrapped the dark around my frame, the choirs were screaming loud. She kissed my brow like breaking ice and said, now wear your shroud. Now wear your shroud. Now wear your the glass at midnight, 7 shards across the stone. Blood ran thin along the edges, like the room had cut my bones. From the black behind the fracture, something leaned into the flame. Wore my jaw, my scars, my posture, spoke my voice, but not my name. Its eyes a deeper blue than oceans drown. Its smile like someone digging up a crown. It said, you are the reflection now. I am the one who's walking through. I carried all your buried vows, all that your trembling heart once knew. It brushed my cheek, it mocked my breath. My chains were glass, your fear the key. You watched the mirror crack to death. Now I am whole and I am free. Candles tending into a circle, shadows bent as if they knelt. Every secret I had whispered in its laughter I could smell. Every choice I'd left to silence, every wound I'd learned to hide, stood there breathing in my outline like it wore me from inside. Do you recall the nights you prayed to tear your gentler half away? It tilted my familiar head. You forged my path with all you said. It said, you are the reflection now. I am the one who's walking through. I am the hunger you disavow, the word you choked instead of drew. It touched my throat, unhooked my name. Your world was bars you could not see. The first cut sparked the oldest flame. You broke the seal. Now I am free. Step, it moved beside me. Every breath a braided lie. I reached out to tear it from me. Felt my own grip fighting mine. In its gaze the ages opened. Cities dusted into ash. Kings who bargained in the dark there traded faces, traded paths. Now I am the story taking hold. I am the curse you dared to vow. When you begged power for your soul, it turned away and walked my road. My house, my hearth, my history. The mirror hummed an empty throne where I still hang, and it walks free. I stepped into the hollow where the trees had learned to scream. Roots like ribs around the pathway, mouths of bark that bled with steam. The soil was warm as breathing flesh. It shifted underfoot, and something old was watching me from underneath the roots. In the hollow where the trees had learned to scream, every breath I took felt stolen from a dream. Eyes in every knot, hands in every shoot. Something old was watching me from underneath the roots. Hung heavy, damp and dripping like a curtain, dark and deep. Every crow and quiet, listening to a name the ground could keep. I heard it in the crawling worms, in the cracking of the wood. A hunger older than the stones that drank me where I stood. In the hollow where the trees had learned to scream, every breath I took felt stolen from a dream. Eyes in every knot, hands in every shoot. Something ears replied in thunder. My courage flinched and frayed. The forest spine rose up in waves. The earth began to move, and every leaf around my face spelled out a single truth. In the hollow where the trees had learned to scream, every breath I took felt borrowed from a dream. If I leave this place, I'll carry what it knew, for something old has buried me deep beneath the roots. I laid inside a coffin made of iron, streaked with rust. The mountain pressed above my chest, the air was thick with dust. Lanterns deadened, fingers numb, stone sweat dripping from the seam. Time ran slow like curdled blood, till thought itself turned dream. Iron and the serpent, rust and hidden flame. I called on every broken god, none answered to their name. Iron and the serpent, old and buried deep, it woke beneath my borrowed grave and swore my soul to keep. I felt a serpent stir below, its breath that ancient heat. Like furnaces of buried wars beneath my nailed-down feet. Scales against the cradle rock, a shiver through the bone. Tongues of fire, tasting fear in that unblessing tomb. Breathe, it hissed inside my skull. Breathe the dust and stone, die as flesh or rise as oath. You will not leave alone. Iron and the serpent, rust and hidden flame, it carved its vow along my ribs and wrote a second name. Iron and the serpent, coiled around my breath, it traded me a waking curse for one unfinished death. I saw cities drowned in ash, crowns devoured by the pit. Children born with ember eyes, already bound to it. I saw banners burned to cords, oaths unstitched by grinding teeth. Every prayer a falling spark across its endless reach. Iron and the serpent, rust and hidden flame. Now when I speak, the shadows lean to hear that buried name. Iron and the serpent, old and never slain, I rose a mocked and living grave, the mountain in my veins. So drink to those in coffins crushed by stone and trust, who bargain with the coil below, in iron and in rust. I sat beside a dying fire, ash on my hands, embers like wounded eyes blinking in the sand. It cracked and turned its face to me, smoke curled like a chain. It whispered from its hollow heart and softly spoke my name. It said the dark was never dark. Before the first flame came, we carved a wound across the sky, and then forgot its name. You called me here to watch you fade, to watch you fall the same. You fear the dark, but not the mark, the first bright burning May. The sparks climbed up the weeping stone, then tumbled one by one, like fallen kings that grasp the crown, then vanish from the sun. The coals confessed in broken breath of cities built on glow, of hungry eyes that learn to see more than they wish to know. It said the dark was never dark. Before the first flame came, we split the night like rotten bark, and fed the newborn flame. You prayed for sight, you praised the light, then something learned your name. You fear the dark, but not the mark, the first bright burning May. I let it die. Let every tongue of color curl and fold, no last warm word, just falling cinders turning black and cold, the walls unbound. The ceiling of the world fell out of view, no circle left between my breathing and the endless blue. No carved out ring of trembling light, no border for the blind, just old unbroken depths of night that do not know my mind. Then in the black I understood what flicker cannot claim the dark was whole before the spark. Before the first flame came, no hidden teeth behind the void, no monster there to name. The wound is light, the scar is sight, the first bright burning shade. For whom I sit beside a circle of cold bones and scattered stone, and in the deep unbreaking dark find I was never alone. Gallows Tree, mud on my boots, dusk in my teeth. Rope still swayed in the afterwind, crow on the beam, waiting to feast. Then the silence split and bled from the turning tongue of the hanging dead. His voice was smoke, it curled and clung, every word a barbed and blackened rung. Beneath the gallows tree he sang a bitter song for the breaker of ranks. Every truth a thorn in a golden crown, every name he named dread kingdoms down. Beneath the gallows tree I learned what kind of truth gets a good man burned. He spat out dates like rusted nails, places etched in old blood trails. A child in chains in a summer hall, a prince gone still behind a wall. Ledgers inked in widow's grief, ties carved deep in the village thief. Feasts of fat on the fasting day, blessed by hands that turned away. Beneath the gallows tree he sang so low a bitter song for the breaker of oaths. Every truth a thorn in a velvet throne, every oath he named was a sharpened stone. Beneath the gallows tree I learned how quiet crimes make the torches burn. Ask, he rasped, and the branches shook. What price you pay just to look? One more secret, one more sin. Once you hear you're woven in. He sang of doors in the castle floor, of buried bones under chapel boards, of painted saints with hollow eyes, drinking prayers, breathing lies. Oh! Beneath the gallows tree he sang a bitter song for the makers of ranks. Every truth a thorn in the herald's tongue, every law he named like a loaded sling flung. Beneath the gallows tree I learned some words hang long after bodies turn. Now when the court cries blasphemy, I taste that night light blessing of kings and what they weave. Ashen every line I speak. I carved my vow in crumbling rock, felt the old world listening. Words like spiders from my tongue, crawling through the cracks in time. They woke the dust beneath my hands, stirred the marrow in the shrine. I swore an oath upon the stone where the ancient blood had dried. Something open like an eye in the darkness of my mind. Now I walk with something else that breathes behind my eyes. Every step a stranger's step, every shadow whispering my cry. Night turned heavier than mail, air grew thick as bitter wine. Whispers braided with my breath, like a second pulse in mine. I saw sigils in the smoke, old and crooked as the land. Felt its fingers lace with mine, cold and patient in my hand. I swore an oath upon the stone where the ancient blood had dried. Something open like an eye in the darkness of my mind. Now I walk with something else that breathes behind my eyes. Every step a stranger's step, every shadow whispering my crime. It speaks in iron, bone and salt. In the pause before a scream, shows me futures rotting open like a battlefield in dream. Villages in quiet rows, all their doors already black. Every name I ever loved laid in offerings at my back. I swore an oath upon the stone where the ancient blood had dried. Something open like an eye in the darkness of my mind. Now I walk with something else that breathes behind my eyes. If I break the vow it feeds, if I keep it, kingdoms die. So I sing in stranger halls, walking through your borrowed light, for I walk with something old that breathes behind my eyes. And it waits, and waits, and waits for the next fool to arise. Smoke on the thatch, ash in the rain, crow on the chapel, calling my name. Lanterns gutter, ale goes stale, old men mutter round the tale. Down by the stones, rot on the rope, moss on the bucket, green as hope. I leaned over, hands on the rim, saw something waiting, staring back in. Not my brow, not my eyes, still it knew every lie. Teeth like shattered winter glass, tongue that tasted every past. I looked into the village well, and the well looked back through me. It smiled with teeth of broken glass, and it spoke in tongues of sea. Come down and drink with me, it sang where the cold cuts bone from spine. The water's black, the water's deep, and the voice below is mine. It named my father, spoke his debts, counted them softly, step by step. Knew the bruise beneath my sleeve, called it faith made of grief. It hummed old hymns from buried days, words the priest is scared to say. Salt on the wind, rot in the pail, every blessing turning pale. Child of hunger, child of drought, I have heard your every doubt. Nails dug hard into stone, still it whispered, you're not alone. I looked into the village well, and the well looked back through me. It smiled with teeth of broken glass, and it spoke in tongues of sea. Come down and drink with me, it sang where the cold cuts bone from spine. The water's black, the water's deep, and the voice below is mine. It showed a hall of sunless crowns, table set in rust and bone. 100 hands that wore my skin, 100 thrones that felt like home. Every self I might have been, every sin I did not choose. All of you are owed to me, all your roads are ones I use. looked into the village well, and the well pulled hard on me. It smiled with teeth of broken glass, and it sang like distant seas. Come down and drink with me, it laughed. Let the cold unmake your spine. The water's black, the water's deep, and the drowning god is mine. Your bread, but know this tale when prayers are said. The well remembers every name, and if it calls you, go or stay. You leave yourself there.